Alright, this is my very late video of my gear after the Colorado Trail and kind of how it performed and what I liked and what I didn't. So I hiked the Colorado Trail back in 2016, so it's been a hot minute and there's been a lot of new gear that's came out, but this was what I used when I hiked. So Gregory Baltoro 75 liter, weighed 5.7 pounds with the lid removed. It worked really well. It was heavy. Its pockets, you can't really cram a lot in them here and there. There's definitely some stuff I don't like about the pack, but it worked. It was super heavy duty, and it got me across Colorado. So I really don't have too many bad things to say about it. The hip belt super comfy. The shoulder straps super comfy. Other than that, there are some new things I like on packs, like the big stretchy pockets and big hip belt pockets, but all in all, it got me across the state, so it worked just fine. Sleeping bag I had to change. I took a Marmot 20 degree, I think they called it the lithium or something. Anyways, it was not a 20 degree. I took that thing up there and I froze every single night that I was in it. I tested it out even at altitude before I left on the trip, and I had to put my puffy inside to stay warm, and I figured I would just do that the whole trip. But it actually happened that I didn't put my puffy in there. It really didn't work that well. If not, I was wearing the puffy to bed, so that was not a combination that worked. So what I did is I just sent for my Zissou 12 Sierra Designs bag. The bag is heavier for sure, but it kept me super warm. Never had a problem with that thing. I mean, it was perfect. Next on the list here, we got the good old Thermarest Z-Seat. That is, a must in my opinion to bring along on any trip. And for camp shoes, I use these just simple flip flops I got at Walmart. I used a Colorado Trail data book. These had a porcupine kind of go at the handles, but they were a pair of REI carbon trekking poles that worked really well. I like those things, and I'm going to put some new handles on them and use them again in the future. Insect shield for the head. I stuffed my sleeping bag in this Sea to Summit compression sack. I kind of started the trail using a system like a trash compactor bag in here with the sleeping bag and all that stuff, and I kind of found that my sleeping bag was getting a little damp just from the difference in heat and maybe condensation and who knows what, and I wanted to get it down a little smaller too, so that compression sack worked perfect. This was my bathroom kit. I just had toilet paper in there, a trowel that I actually ended up breaking. Since then I've gotten the deuce of spades. But toilet paper, some hand sanitizer, and also some wet wipes were in there with my trowel that broke. For a cooking system, I used the Jetboil Soul. This was the first cook set that I've ever bought, and it was the most basically efficient kind of way for me to cook up there. It could be used as a cup. Be used to eat out of. I kind of started doing the freezer bag meal thing when I went out, but I mostly ended up just cooking right out of the Jetboil and eating out of that and drinking out of the bottom as a cup. Insulated, so you can kind of cook some food in there, let it sit for a while, hydrate, and then warm it up. It worked really well. I think it was about 19 ounces with a whole thing of gas with it, I believe. So definitely on the heavier side, but whatever. Water system, I had a LifeStraw and Aquamira. It worked awesome because there were some spots where the cows were really messing up the water sources and your water was like straight yellow. So I would treat it with Aquamira and then I would throw it in a Gatorade bottle to put my LifeStraw in. And I also had some Smart Water bottles too, but I always had one Gatorade bottle because I would camel up at sources so I wouldn't have to carry as much water, Get to a source, drink a liter out of the LifeStraw, and then of course the Aquamira takes about a half hour to be effective. So I would actually get to treat my water and drink my water at the source, and then once I was thirsty again, about 30 minutes down the trail, I could start pounding water again. But honestly, in a lot of cases, the cameling up, that's a really good technique. I love it, and I wasn't really thirsty for an hour after I would drink at some sources. Other than that, electronics, really, I had an iPhone 6s that I had a Guthook app on. I took pictures with it, did video. Anker 10,000 milliamp battery core. Got this little dual USB plug charger deal. This thing came from Amazon. It's a multi-port. It just basically plugs in and has mini USB, and lightning adapter on it. A pair of headphones. for listening to music and such. Ursack is what I kept my food in. I did not hang. I just tied this up every night. And Evernew bladder for my water storage. Came in real big handy. Then, for my sleep system, continued. I used Thermarest NeoAir at first. Boom. Traded it for the NeoAir Xtherm after the trip because I was super cold up in the high elevations on that NeoAir. I had to stuff rain gear, clothing, anything I could find under that mat to really get a good night's sleep because I could feel the cold just coming through the ground with the NeoAir. Now I know a lot of people use NeoAirs everywhere. They don't have problems with them. I am a cold sleeper, so that was definitely part of that equation. But other than that, I like the Xtherm because if you're sleeping at 12,000 feet, which you do on the Colorado Trail, there's parts where you sleep at 11.5, 12. I think my highest camp was at like 12.3. And it just gets cold up there. I woke up and my water was frozen. Like, when you're up at altitude, it all changes. My tent that I absolutely loved and will love it forever is my Big Agnes Fly Creek UL2. This is the first version, the oldest version that they came out with. It performed magnificently. I never had issues with it. It survived huge rainstorms, windstorms. It was a great tent, and I can't say enough good things about it. For my clothing, I just wore a pair of Ex Officio boxer briefs under some running shorts. For my top, I wore like an REI button down, like hiking shirt or whatever. For my socks, I used Smart Wool. I used a combination of socks, Smart Wool, Features, and I think I had a pair of Darn Toughs at one point as well too. I had a hat. I just wore like a Patagonia like trail hat. And I wore sunglasses, just a pair of like Ray-Bans. Other than that, for sleeping, I slept in these Patagonia thermal weight bottoms. I had a wool buff that I used as a pillowcase for my pillow, which is this little cocoon pillow. It worked out really well. I still have it, still use it. Don't know why I'm not putting it in the video. Guess I forgot it. For my rain shell, I used a Golight Malpais, which is a old company that's rebranded as My Trail Co. now. But this was a nice shell. It weighs like 7 ounces. No pit zips, but I mean, I don't know, it worked pretty well. I had for a puffy my Patagonia, what's it called, down sweater? Yeah, Patagonia down sweater. Super warm. Definitely could have used something a little lighter, but it did the job, kept me warm. Gloves, I had a pair of just these Black Diamond, I don't know what they're called, but they're Polypro, like Polartec gloves with a little leather kind of thing on the mitts for trekking poles, and they worked really well. At first, I had this Patagonia, what is that called? It's a thermal weight hoodie, and it did not keep me that warm, to be honest. Like I said, cold sleeper, but that thing just didn't really work too well, so I was in Breckenridge, and I bought a Patagonia R1, and this thing was amazing. I loved putting it on every night. It was a pleasure to wear, kept me super warm, super comfy, and it is a piece of gear that I will always use. ULA rain skirt, I forgot, was part of my rain gear as well. And can't forget the old trusty umbrella. I got a lot of flack for the umbrella, but I love it. I actually sent the umbrella home before I got to Leadville, and I regretted every single day that I did not have that umbrella. In Colorado, the rain comes and goes, and like it can rain in 5 minutes, be sunny for another 3, and then start raining again. And having to constantly take your pack off and put a rain jacket on, take your pack off, put a rain jacket on, it's just, it becomes too much, and you're just like, screw it. I'll just hike either with my rain shell on and sweating it, or I'll hike without it and just endure the rain and get a little wet here and there. But this thing was really nice to have. It saved me in some hailstorms, keeps the sun off you, and at that altitude the sun gets super, super intense. And there's some sections where, you're hiking at altitude for a couple days, and it just becomes a lot, and that umbrella really would have came in handy in those spots too. But other than that, all my gear worked pretty well. I had an injury that I had to deal with during the trip. It was basically like an IT band kind of overuse injury that I actually still suffer to it this day. And we're talking, this is 2016 and 2020 now, so I'm still dealing with some of the injuries that I got on the Colorado Trail. Maybe one in part because I haven't treated them effectively and properly, and two, I didn't really know I had like an injury there for a while until I saw a professional. But that was pretty much the gear that I kind of still have that was on my list. I think my whole pack, like base weight, I have it written down in this old journal I have, and it looks like it was 23 pounds. And I can't tell if I need to add some weight for a few things or minus it, because I put little tick marks next to them and they look like minuses. So I'm guessing my base weight was around 23 pounds-ish. It kind of sounds right with the gear that I used. The gear I used was definitely heavier and whatnot back then. But it got me through the trail. It made some awesome memories. And I've really, really forged some good connections with some of this gear out there, especially my tent. I love that thing. But I love you too, Umbrella. Don't you get jealous now.